Most men can go work 10, 12 hours a day, no problem. What they do is they struggle being connected at home with their wife. They struggle playing on the ground and playing Legos with their kids. The family and the fitness pillar, those two ones are the first to get sacrificed if we get busy in life. Men didn't have a system. They didn't have a way to manage it all and to be on top of their faith, their family, their fitness, and their finances. Coming home from a long day of work, and I look at Jessica and she looks at me and she says, like, I don't feel connected to you. I'm like, oh, wow, that's pretty serious. When we had our first kid, I promised that I would be home with her. And then within a couple weeks, I was back to work, fully working and leaving her handling everything with the kids. That was a punch in the face, a realization that I had broke my word and that I wasn't really making them a priority. I want guys to have good marriages so they go make more money and they build better companies. A thriving marriage leads to bigger businesses. When your marriage is suffering, you'll do stupid stuff in business.
Hi there. Welcome to TekRevol Chronicles. Today's conversation is one that I've been looking forward to because it sits right at the intersection of leadership systems in real life. I'm joined by Skylar Lewis, founder of Rise Up Kings. A lot of people know the four pillars outside and inside the community: faith, family, fitness, and finance. And what interests me is something slightly different. How do you take something deeply personal, growth, identity, discipline, and actually build structure around it? Not just motivation, not just events, but something that actually scales. Skylar has been able to do that, and we're going to talk to him about that in great detail. Skylar, good to have you on.
Yeah, grateful to be on. Thank you.
Perfect. Um, before Rise of Kings became a movement, and we are where we are at right now. What were you noticing in men around you that made you think about this?
Yeah, well, for personal, I mean, it wasn't just men around me. It was for me personally. Yeah, I struggled staying balanced. So when my wife and my family needed me, I would go spend more time with them, but then my business would start struggling. So then I'd go focus on my business, but then my wife would say she misses me and there's disconnection in the marriage. And so I just had this struggle moving back and forth. And I'm a systems guy, I'm a business guy. And so I'm great at scaling organizations. And so I'm like, I have all my systems, my processes for business, yet I don't have any system for my personal life. And so that was what I started noticing in myself was men didn't have a system. They didn't have a way to manage it all and to be on top of their faith, their family, their fitness, and their finances, right? What we call the four pillars. And so I started to realize other guys were struggling with that. And it didn't always end well. It ended pretty badly. Many guys in divorce, many guys struggling with addiction, using alcohol to sedate. And so I wanted to see how to best serve these men to where they could be the best for their families and the communities.
Mm. And you mentioned this a little bit earlier in terms of your own introduction, the dips or the irregularity, so to speak. So,
Yep.
at what point did you realize that inspiration wasn't enough, that you need infrastructure?
Yeah. Yeah. We rise not to the level of our goals. What ends up happening is we fall to the level of our systems. And so we'll always drop to our level, our baseline level of systems. So if you don't have great systems, you'll crash and burn. And so what we have to do is, yeah, inspiration will get you up there, but if you want to live a life of yo-yos, up and down, which a lot of people do, right? They're motivated one day, they're off the next. That it doesn't produce the best results. And so I realized for me I needed to build infrastructure personally and in business that could keep running even if I had a low, even if my inspiration was off.
Interesting. And then when you look at the four pillars that you have today, which one do you feel collapses the first for high performing guys?
Collapses with like a domino almost.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely affects the rest, but which one is the first to go, I guess, for people when they
Oh, which one is the
relapse?
first to drop?
Hmm.
It's a great question. So I'd say what men are the best at, we're the best at focusing on the finance pillar, business.
Hmm.
Really, the finance pillar is business. So we're really good. We can just put our heads down, go grind 10, 12 hours a day. That's very easy. And I would say
Hmm.
that's not work ethic. Most men don't struggle with work ethic. the way they
Mm,
normally think they do. Most men can go work 10, 12-hour days, no problem. What they do
mhm,
is they struggle being connected at home with their
mm,
wife. They struggle playing on the ground and playing Legos with their kids. They struggle. So I'd say the family pillar is usually the first to get sacrificed. The family and the fitness pillar, those two ones are the first to get sacrificed if we get busy in life. And so they'll squeeze the extra hour, but they'll always take it either from their family or they'll take it from their health, thinking that there's
mm,
not consequences. But man, you jack up the fitness pillar, meaning your health and your nutrition, you mess that up, you'll be a rich guy at 50 years old with cancer in a hospital bed, and your quality of life will be very low if you really mess this thing up. So the fitness pillar, and then marriage, you jack that one up, you'll be a rich guy that's divorced looking for the next woman to go marry, and then move into the next marriage and the next marriage because you don't know how to love your wife and kids in a way that keeps them around. So yeah, so it's those two pillars.
interesting. And I'm assuming this is obviously grounded in your own personal experience, but let me just ask, what was the first thing that you actually systemized for yourself that actually changed your trajectory?
Fitness, exercise.
Interesting.
So yeah, I started to really focus. I mean, the first thing was actually a morning routine. So I decided I was going to go to bed at the same time each night, and I was going to wake up at the same time each morning. And then I built a morning routine. I built a spreadsheet, and I started tracking all of my habits that I wanted to go install. Like in
Interesting.
business, right? There's good habits. Good habit is regularly following up with the client. A good habit is uh, consistently running ads, consistently doing business. Like there's a lot of habits that produce results. So what's the habit
Mhm,
for a human being? Man, it's their morning routine. It's their exercise. It is their connection with God. It's their connection with their family. We want to turn these into habits. If it's
mhm,
not a habit, we're going to forget about it. For me,
mm,
if it's not built into a habit, I'm going to forget about it and I'm going to go focus too much on my business, and I'll forget about the people around me that I really care about the most, that I'm really doing this for.
mm. And just to kind of go a little bit more deeper, what was happening in your life at that time, if you were to kind of just reflect, that made that system necessary?
It was disconnection in my marriage. Yeah. Yeah. We were just fighting, struggling. She was feeling like I wasn't putting her as a priority in my life. And so yeah, I had to find a different way to operate. It was not effective. It was not working. So yeah, so I'd say that was the biggest thing. I remember coming home from a long day of work, and I look at Jessica and she looks at me and she says like, "I don't feel connected to you." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" She said, I don't feel any connection towards you." I'm like, "Oh wow, that's pretty serious." Uh, and then also what happened was when we had our first kid, I promised that I would be home with her, and then I ended up within a week to 2, I said I'd first spend the first couple of months just taking it easy. Within a couple weeks, I was back to work, fully working and leaving her handling everything with the kids. So it was a yeah. That was a punch in the face, a realization that I had broke my word and that I wasn't really making them a priority based on results. I like to base things on results. So based on results, I say she's a priority, but man, based on results, they're really my family wasn't a priority.
I think it's key to be so reflective around everything that you do. I think that's what makes you different. Um, you've worked with a lot of high achievers in terms of optimizing their family, the four pillars, and some of the other components, and making them even higher achievers. But to kind of put a contrarian thought there, what's the biggest lie that you see high achievers telling themselves when you meet them?
That they can't do it all.
The
That
four
the
pillars.
belief, yeah, it's the belief that if I work more, I have to sacrifice something. Something has to get sacrificed. So that's a big fat lie that gives people an excuse to and the challenge is like does this stuff really matter? Yeah. If when your marriage is struggling, uh you will not be the best business guy because it's going to be on your head. The fight from last night's going to be in your mind. So
Mhm.
like I'm doing this also from an efficiency standpoint and a productivity standpoint. I want guys to have good marriages so they go make more money and they build better companies. A thriving marriage leads to bigger businesses. When your marriage is suffering, you'll do stupid stuff in business. So yeah, the biggest lie is that they can't do it all. I can't do it all. Something has to get sacrificed. So the antidote to that is the belief that, hey, if I decide to work more in business, it just means I have to become more intentional with everything else. So more intentional with my workouts, more intentional with the time with my kids. Maybe I don't have as much time, but I have but I'm it's going to be better quality time. So when I work more, which I do, sometimes I'm working 12, 14 hours a day, I dedicate even more better quality time with the little time that I have with the family to fill up their cups. So that's I say that's the biggest lie that they have. Yeah. Yeah, regarding the four pillars and regarding having some balance. And there's no such thing as balance. There's no such thing as perfect balance. You're never going to spend 8 hours a day on your business, 8 hours a day on your family, 8 hours a day on your faith. Like no such thing as perfect balance, but there is harmony where they can all work really well together.
Interesting. And obviously, like when I hear this, there's an aspect of this that kind of feels like accountability. So when I, if I structure this in my head, it would be, how would you sort of define the difference between accountability that works and accountability that just feels like pressure?
That's good. Yeah, I'd say accountability that works would be accountability where you have some people that you care about, and there's self accountability. Uh, you know what? The accountability that's pressurized, what people do is they
Mhm.
put guilt on the other side of that and shame on the other side of that. So if they don't do what they say they're going to do, they feel guilt and shame. And so, therefore, if they ever set goals or want to go follow a routine, it feels like so much pressure because they know if they miss it, they're going to feel shame and they're going to feel
Mm.
guilt. So on the other side is realizing, hey, you don't need to feel shame or guilt if you miss it. You're just not going to live the life that you dream, but you don't have to feel shame and guilt. So it's more of a pull motivation versus
Instead of
push
a push.
motivation. Like I have to grind it out. It's like, what if you just set something that is so inspirational that you're like, I want to follow that. I want this to be my life. And if I fail, I'm not going to
Mm.
beat myself up. I'm just going to find a way to get back at it again. So I think the guilt trips that we can sometimes use to motivate us, that it doesn't work very well.
To replace the negative reinforcement with positive. Yeah,
Yes.
that definitely
Yep.
makes sense.
100%.
Um, and then when you were building out the Rise of Kings to the level that it's at right now, and obviously like it's growing every day, what point did you realize that events alone won't scale what you're trying to do, and you had to build a system?
Yep. Yeah, so what we do with our events is we have men come through, they have some deep transformation, but without a system or a process for tracking these things and staying on top of the most important things, they would usually fizzle out after 3 or 6 months. So we
Mm.
realize that they need accountability, they need a community, they need an app, they need some technology, they need something to help keep them on track where they can be consistent to build the habit and the identity of consistency.
Mm.
Most men lack discipline and consistency. And so, so how do you get that? Man, you got to be consistent for a long time, but you need some systems in place to help with that.
And I know you mentioned the the them shifting and sort of not being consistent, but specifically when you build a platform, what behavior were you trying to reinforce first that built that consistency? For
Tracking,
you, you mentioned the
track.
morning routine.
Yeah, it was morning
But
routine and tracking.
tracking.
If I could get a guy tracking his stuff every day, his
Hmm.
behaviors, that would set him up for success. If he only did that one thing of tracking and he committed to it for a year,
Hmm.
that one thing of tracking would be a game changer for him because then he would add things on to that tracking list. And so it would be
Interesting.
like it would be the foundation for all new habits and behaviors that he wanted to implement and increase. He would just add it to tracking. He would just start tracking it because what we have a saying, what you track improves, right?
Mm.
The things that you track improve. So if I can just
Hmm.
build a habit of tracking, whether I'm tracking my morning routine, tracking whatever it may be, if I can build that habit, I can add anything else onto there, and I'm going to see progress. Uh, and that's what, if anybody's ever tracked their fitness, their macros, their eating, just by tracking what you eat, you start eating better. If that's all you do is track it, you automatically start eating better because you're tired of putting all the crap in the app over and over. And you're like, you know what? I'm just going to eat better today. So just by tracking, it actually starts producing results.
I think it's a component of reflection. You mentioned the Excel file as well initially, and
Yeah.
I think the iteration of the platform is from that. But yeah, it just reinforcement that what
It's
I'm
a
doing is
feedback
wrong.
loop, right? It's a
Exactly.
reflection.
Yeah.
It's a feedback loop onto what's working and not working. Without tracking,
Right.
there's no feedback loop to look at.
Yeah. And it gives you more control as well. Nobody else telling you what to do. You're telling yourself what to do. So
Mhm,
yeah, makes
mhm,
sense.
mm.
And then, obviously, like you mentioned, that most people fell off like 3 to 6 months into the program initially before you build that system. So where do people fall off, and what did that teach you about human behavior?
Yeah, I'd say people usually can stick with something for about 60 days and then they fall off. So they can work out for 60 days, they can eat healthy for 60 days. Like motivated people can do it. Unmotivated people, it's like 2, 3 weeks. But motivated people can last about 60 days. So it just shows that human behavior, we want to follow, we search for comfort. It's built into every aspect of a human being. We want to avoid pain and find comfort. So we want to take the easier path. It's built into our psyche. It's a way to protect ourselves. We want to protect ourselves from pain and discomfort. And doing something consistently for a long time, it can be difficult. And so we want to avoid difficulty. And so that's the a core psychological human behavior is the avoidance of pain and the moving towards comfort,
Pleasure. Yeah, that makes
pleasure.
sense. And this is gonna be from your book, and the system that you've built for yourself, like the 2-day CEO
Yeah.
component.
Yeah.
Where what was there a moment where you realized that you had yourself become a bottleneck?
Yeah. Yeah. There was my vision for growing a business had always been to be able to build a business that could run itself. For some reason, I
Mhm.
wanted to have a company that could run without me. I think a lot of entrepreneurs have that vision. And so what I realized was uh, it wasn't necessarily I was the bottleneck. Uh, but it was the fact that yeah, I was chained to the business is what I realized. I had actual chain attached to me and I couldn't break free because every decision, which is the bottleneck, had to come through me. Every key decision had to come through me for the business to be able to run well. So when I was on vacation, I would get calls. So that was really what I when I realized it. I couldn't even take off time without having to log in on my computer and get things done. So that's when I realized, crap, the business actually owns me. I don't own the business. And so from that point on, I'm like, hey, I gotta do this. I don't want to be chained to the business my entire life. And so I started first with people. I started to hire the right people that could run autonomously, that cared about the business, that actually cared about they just weren't in it for themselves. And then I started to put processes in place where I could have them make decisions, and then there would be a feedback loop on how that decision was made. So that was a weekly leadership meeting that I had every week with the team. And if I wasn't there, they would still report on their decisions and then they would all give feedback to each other and to be able to see how the business was running. So I created this like a heartbeat. It was the heartbeat of the company was this weekly meeting, weekly leadership meeting. So I had the leadership team. I had the process of these weekly leadership meetings. I built a goal tracking process and I built a metric tracking process. They reviewed it every week. And then I was able to allow the team starting to push decisions to the team. And uh, my phrase became when somebody came to me and said, Skylar, what do you think about this decision? The number one thing I always would answer was, what do you think? They would always say, hey, what should we do? What do you think? What do you think? I have literally, if I type in, what do you think in my email, I'll probably have thousands of emails. Hey, should we hire this person? What do you think? And so I would allow them to be able to make mistakes and make decisions where I wasn't the bottleneck anymore. And so that was a
Interesting.
big shift for our culture where all decisions weren't ran through me. Now I had to hire good people that could make good decisions. I had to support them with good processes so they could be consistent. Yeah.
Interesting. So And this should to focus a little bit more on expansion now, because we're running short of time. But if Rise of King expands, whether it's franchising, licensing, whatever it becomes, what part of it do you think cannot be diluted?
Yeah, I would say the event experience can't be diluted. Meaning we get very vulnerable, very real if we start to lose a grip on how that's done at our events. That creates the transfer. It's like our special recipe. Imagine you're right, you're a manufacturer, you're Chick-fil-A or you're McDonald's, and you have this specific recipe, right? That recipe
Mhm,
can't get diluted. So our recipe, every business has a recipe, something that
mhm,
makes their business unique. So for me, ours is our events. For Rise of Kings, it's our events. It's they're world class, best in the world. We're really good at what we do. And yeah, if that gets diluted, then we're gonna lose our edge.
interesting. And this goes to kind of to the founders that are out there when they're listening to this. What part of your success story do most people misunderstand?
I mean, I think everybody ends up looking at someone's success and just thinking it was overnight. They usually miss all of the failures and the struggles and the late nights, the difficult decisions, having to lay people off. I filed bankruptcy when I was younger. Like I went through a lot of challenges to find the right way to build a business. So I think they just think it's easier than it is, and then they get upset when it's hard. It's supposed to be hard. Business is one of the most difficult things a human being can do is run a business. It's supposed to be difficult, and we grow through difficulty. So I think the lie that people believe is it's supposed to be easier than it is. Same with marriage. Man, this is supposed to be easier. It's like, is it? Is it supposed to be easier, or is it supposed to be just like it how it is? Difficult. So now there'll be times where it's easy, yes, and there's going to be times it's very difficult. So I think they see the success and they think, oh wow, there's an easy path. There's an easier path, but there's not an easy path.
A lot of people, when they look at you, they probably look at the systems that you've built and everything else, and probably think that's the key. But it's I'm assuming that's deeper than that. There's a component of your success that is the everyday things that you do. It's day in day out. Whenever, like you mentioned, even when it's difficult, you still keep plowing through.
Yep. I think that's a big thing. When things get difficult, people back down, they back away. So the people that produce the most results, they just keep at it. They keep going
Mm,
and going and going, and they don't stop working or take it easy too long, because then other your competitors will continue to pass you up. So I just have yeah having a habit of that of the I think what makes the most successful there's a couple things. What makes people most successful is their tenacity, like how tenacious they are. They're willing to go after it. How well
mhm,
they execute. They're just not talking about it or thinking about it. They're actually doing. They take an idea and they go do it.
mhm,
So, and then their resourcefulness. They're very resourceful. They can figure out a way to. They learn. They don't give up. They always think there's another way. So they're never going to say, "Man, I've tried everything." That's resourceful people don't say that. They
mhm,
go, "I've tried a lot of things, but there's always another option." So
mhm.
they're very resourceful. I'd say so. Those are the people that I've seen the most create the most success. They tend to move fast. They're tenacious. They want it. They want it bad.
Right, right. And then the system, obviously, like
Yep.
you mentioned yourself, like just follow the system, don't fail. Like that, let
Yep.
that be your bottom line. So you've built a community, you've built systems, you've built infrastructure. If you were to zoom out 3 to 5 years, what layer doesn't exist yet that you'll eventually build?
It would be a connectedness to all of the. It would be a another layer of our app is pretty connected, but it'd be another layer of connectedness to different organizations that refer people to Rise Up Kings, whether that be churches, whether that be whatever that may be. So, like a somehow an interconnected network that allows us to be like a central hub for transformation is really the layer that we are focused on that over the next 5 years.
Interesting. Resources, people, that are affected and engaged with the community. That makes
Yep.
perfect sense. And what kind of capability do you think you'll need to unlock to achieve that there?
I think we'll need to take some more risks, and then we'd have to be willing to open up what we do a little bit more. We're very closed in our not closed, but we're not we're protective over our processes and kind of what we've built. So I believe there need to be a level of opening up that to create some space for some people to run with some things with some supervision and with some mechanisms to control the quality.
And then I know you kind of dived into the three things that entrepreneurs need to focus on to build successful businesses. If there was one thing from your own life that you feel an experience that you could share with them that built who you are today, that they can see in themselves and then perhaps get in touch with you to help, what would that be?
An experience. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of what we talked about. It's the experience of feeling like you're underwater and you can't do it all. And so that's the core experience that I think the people that come through Rise of Kings, they end up having. They're struggling in some area because they're feeling underwater. They're treading water and they're not able to break free. And so people that feel stuck. And so that was me with my marriage, and me with my marriage and my business right here. The back and forth was, I was stuck. And so looking for a way to break through.
Interesting. And then if somebody wanted to get in touch with you to, take the challenge or, come in and sort of meet you, what would be the best route to do that?
Yeah, just go to riseupkings.com or follow us on social media, or follow me at Skylar Lewis on Instagram or YouTube.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for being on our show. This was very instructive, and yeah, I always love meeting you and finding, your story truly fascinating, and I'm sure people will do as well.
Yeah, appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.